going to call this meeting to order. My name is Joe McGivern, Chair of the Holyoke City Council's Finance Subcommittee. Members of the committee to my right, Peter Tallman. Joining us by Zoom, Councilor Kevin Jourdain. Councilor Todd McGee is online. And at the moment, that's Councilor Jose Maldonado Velez is online. We are on Zoom. We are being streamed, and we are live on the Access channel. This meeting, as all meetings of the City Council, are recorded. We do have an agenda, a good agenda tonight, but not too bad of an agenda. We're also, by other elected officials, we're also joined by school committee person Aaron Burnell. A number of special guests. With that in mind, we're going to go right to item number 1.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 1 off the table. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Jeff, I think we might need a little volume in the chambers for Zoom. Item 1 is introduced under the Finance Chair's name. It's an appropriation by transfer for fiscal 2023 to fiscal 2023 from fiscal 2022, $1,591,291. This would be from free cash into the Cannabis Impact and Innovation Stabilization Fund. Under discussion, we had a lengthy discussion about this item at the last City Council meeting, Finance Committee meeting, and at the City Council meeting. What we learned was the cannabis impact dollars have to go into a stabilization fund itself. The first year that the city received cannabis impact dollars, the stabilization fund was not created, and by error, the city earmarked this money into the general fund. We've attempted to see if we could earmark certain projects during that fiscal 2021 year. The DLS told us we could not. We talked with the auditor about this, and the mayor has, suggested appropriately and accordingly, that we use free cash to make the account good. So before us is a discussion we've already had, but it's a transfer to make the Cannabis Stabilization Fund good. Is there any discussion by the committee members? Mayor, I think you're all set. And if the auditor wanted to say anything in addition?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions or any discussion? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Councilor Jourdain's got his.
Councilor Jourdain, sorry, I didn't see the hand, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to make the motion to approve it, that's all.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second that we approve, recommend this to the full City Council next Tuesday, that we approve the transfer to make the account good. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. We are 3 members out of 5 this evening. We have one member who's in Florida and 1 member who's in Rhode Island. Item number 2.
Motion to take item number 2 off the table.
Motion made and seconded to take item number 2 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Communication addressed to the full City Council. I wish to inform you that the regular meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners held Monday, April 11, 2022, the Commission voting to approve the water rate increase of 0.05 per gallon, per 100 gallons.
100.
Thank you. Effective July 1st, 2022. As the first in a series of 3 proposed rate increases to compensate for the bonding associated with the comprehensive capital improvement projects. The need to increase the water rate total of 0.12 for 100 gallons was discussed with the Finance Committee for both the 13.39 and the 6.54 million bond authorization approved by the City Council back in 2018 and 2000 respectively. To minimize the impact to the ratepayers at the request of the City Council, the Commission proposed raising rates over a 3-year period beginning July 1, 2020. I'm pleased to say the Commission has successfully delayed the first increase for 2 full years to be careful due to the careful fiscal management of the department's operational costs, aggressive collection of outside arrears and municipal liens, and most unfortunately, as to aid to mitigate the financial impact associated with the COVID-19 pandemic to our community as a whole. Accordingly, the board and I are available to meet with the city council to discuss this increase in more detail at your convenience, as well as with matters of concern regarding the water system itself. Sincerely, David Conti, manager of the Holyoke Water Works. This item was, came to the full city council back in the beginning of May. We referred it to the finance committee. As noted in the communication from our manager, we have had the discussion for the reason that the rates would be increased. We had lengthy discussions over the bonding for the capital improvement projects, which included not just to mention the entire city, eventually, but some of the water pressure issues up in the areas where we had a house fire on Fairfield Avenue and some other capital improvements that needed to be done, including I believe the breach of the dam on the reservoir up the Whiting Street reservoir. I'm trying to do this by memory, David. I listen to you and you amaze me when you do the history. But the city council and the committee, we believe it's a good time to have a discussion just to rehash it quickly, because we do have 6 new members. I was going to say 7, but that 7th person who's on the committee just happened to have been not only a former city councilor, but a former water commissioner. So we know Kevin doesn't need to be updated, but I think we all would like to hear just where we are and how you're doing. So with that in mind, with us this evening, we have the manager of the water department, David Conti. We have 2 out of 3 of our commissioners, Butch Seidel, Tim Keene are here with us. And certainly, gentlemen, please all come in. As always, we're used to him. I don't know if he goes home at night, but Mayor Garcia is also here, which is just, I think, becoming a fixture in the city council chambers, and I mean that in a good way. Yeah. Just the finance committee, huh? Thanks. As we're getting ready, just like to welcome online Councilor Linda Bacon.
Hello, thank you.
Good evening.
David, welcome, and please feel free to make a presentation.
So, with your permission, I'd like to make about a 10-minute presentation to talk about why we're here and why we're raising the water rates. There's a lot of new city councilors that are not familiar with these projects, and I think this would be good informationally for them. Commissioner Harbless had a conflict today. He was not able to attend. So,
Commissioner Harbless is the senior member now. We got time is moving on.
Yeah.
And Councilor Bartley has joined us.
So all this started in 1997.
Dave.
You might have something too.
When
The agenda's there too in the front.
this,
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Right.
You're fine. We just started. I think that's a packet.
So this originated in 1997 when, at the time, the city built the water treatment plant, the pipeline, the storage tanks, and there was somewhere in the order of $19 million plus $2.68 million that were bonded that were going to mature in 20 years. And at the time, there was deficiencies that were noted in the water system, and the commission had indicated to the city council that when these bonds matured, they would address these deficiencies. So 2017, the bonds matured. The water department put together this comprehensive capital improvement project which identified all the major deficiencies in the water system. We identified 25 projects from high to low classification, and we did come before the city council, and at the time the city council approved a bond authorization of $13.39 million, which was approved in 2018. Now, subsequent to that, there was a fire in Fairfield Avenue when we were brought back before this committee, and there was a discussion that at the time, the improvements in Fairfield Avenue, the Morgan Street project, was underway with regards to development, but we did identify then that there was further deficiencies from a water distribution standpoint. So at the time, the city council approved an additional $6.54 million, which were specific to water main improvement projects. So the comprehensive capital improvement projects was broken down into 5 major projects: the rehabilitation of 5 water storage tanks, the Mclean Gatehouse improvements, the construction of a second water storage tank, improvements to the spillway at the Whiting Street Reservoir, and 3,800 linear feet of new water main replacement, or roughly 7.5 miles of all new water lines and fire protection. So just to go through the projects one by one, just quickly, the water storage tanks involved the recoating of 4 water storage tanks, encapsulation of the existing coating, and then the 5th water storage tank, it was blasted down to bare metal, reprimed and repainted, and the purpose of that was to extend the life of those water storage tanks. Okay, at the time, that was estimated at $2.7 million. The next project was the Mclean Gatehouse project, which was conducted in 2021 to 2022. That was to improve or increase the capacity of the gatehouse from 3 million gallons up to 10 million gallons, so that if we ever lost our primary supply or our source, Ty-Carmody Reservoir, we could service the city from our in-town reservoir, which is the Mclean Reservoir. That's our secondary source. So what we did was we did some improvements to the screening system. We included electrical, a new hoist, new windows, new roof, and that project was estimated at $330,000. The next project, which is underway currently, is a new water storage tank for the West Holyoke water system. It's a 500,000 gallon water storage tank. It's to provide additional water storage for the West Holyoke water system, referred to as, the former Cornet Homes Pequot water systems. That water storage tank provides additional capacity for fire protection needs, and the manner in which we designed this is to improve circulation and prevent short-circuiting of the water. It's a water quality issue. So now the way we configured it is the water comes from the treatment plant into the new tank, out of the new tank, into the old tank, and then into the distribution system. Currently, we do not have that capability. So there's major improvements there for this particular area in the water system. The next project, which is currently in the permitting stage, is the Whiting Street Reservoir Spillway project. That spillway does not meet the 1,000-year storm event, which is a requirement of the Army Corps of Engineers. The current spillway is 33.5 feet. It's going to be expanded to 110 feet in length. We are dropping the impound, and the reason we're dropping the impound is to meet the 1,000-year storm event. The spillway would have had to be 300 feet long. Okay, and in doing so, the cost would have been exponentially more. So what we did was we decreased the length of the spillway to 110 feet, and we dropped the impound 2 feet, or reducing the capacity of the reservoir from 479 million gallons to 439 million gallons, okay? That project we expect to go out to bid and start in spring of 2023, I'm sorry. That was estimated at $2.18 million. And the remaining projects is the water main replacement projects, which we broke into 3 phases. The first phase, which was conducted in 2021, included the lower wards, which was referred to as the Flats, and then the South Holyoke area. The reason this project was done first was there's a CSO, Jackson Street Sewer Separation Project, that's taking place, and also a Mass Works project. So we thought it would be in the city's best interest that these projects be conducted at the same time, so that there's minimum disruption to the neighborhood, and that there's also a reduction in cost from road restoration work, because we're all working in the same streets. This provided 5,500 feet of new 8 and 12-inch pipe, along with additional fire protection in these particular areas. So the outlying area, I can pretty much go over it. It's North Bridge Street, Eli Street, Northeast Street, East White Street, South Summer Street, South Adams Street, Southeast Street, and portions of Canal Street. And that's all been completed. The next phase is the Phase 2A, which at this point in time, the only remaining work is road restoration and sidewalk repair. That is in the Fairfield Avenue, Morgan Street, Pearl Street, Nonotuck Street, Loomis Avenue area. All those areas, all new water mains, all additional fire protection, all new 8-inch pipe, 6,500 feet of all new pipe. That project right now, for the most part, like I said, is complete. Everything's activated. We're just getting into the restoration part, which will be done in July. The Phase 2B project, which is currently underway, that's the Portland Avenue, Magnolia Street. It's also the East Dwight Street and Hamden Street area. That's all new 8-inch and 12-inch pipe. That project is currently underway, and we anticipate that project to be completed in 2024. All the more water main work should be completed in 2023. Road restoration work will be completed in 2024. We did qualify under an SRF program, a state revolving fund program, which we qualified for, and that project is funded at a 2% fixed interest rate with a 19.8% loan forgiveness. So estimate currently shows that we're going to be receiving a loan forgiveness in the order of $519,000 towards that project. Okay, 3A project is in the design stages. That project is expected to go out to bid in 2024 with completion in 2026. And that's 9,400 feet of 8-inch through 16-inch water main. That's in Elm Street. That's in South Elm Street, Chestnut Street, and Main Street from the 391 bridge all the way to Marcotte Ford. That project, we are going to be applying for SRF funding also. And then the 3B project, that's 2025 to 2027, that's going to be we're also going to be applying for SRF funding. The only thing I forgot to mention was we did receive $2 million in ARPA funds, which is going to be applied towards these programs, okay? So how will we pay for all these projects? You're looking at $19.93 million with estimated annual principal and interest payments of a little over $1.2 million, which is going to equate to a 12-cent increase. That 12-cent increase would raise the current water rates from 0.47 per 100 gallons to 0.59 per 100 gallons, or 25.5%. That was discussed with the city council at a finance committee back in 2019, and at the time, the city council recommended that the water commissioner phase those rates in over a minimum three-year period. First rate increase was scheduled to go into effect in FY21, but that was deferred due to a number of reasons. One, the Water Department had pursued outstanding liens and collected those outstanding liens to generate additional revenue. We had spread the projects over a longer period of time and extended the ban so that we only drew money as we needed for the expenses to the project, and also in consideration of COVID-19. So now, in 2022, January of 2022, the $7.8 million that was borrowed from the city was sold, and we received the payment schedule, which the first payment is due in FY 2023 of $700,674. That's due in 2023. And we also have the first payment under the Phase 2A project of $23,675, which is due in 2023, and we're looking at 2024 of roughly $130,000. So the Board of Water Commissioners at a meeting adopted a rate increase of 0.05 per 100 gallons, or 10%, which went into effect, we notified the residents for the April 15th billing, that this new rate would be reflected in their January 15th billing. So we provided everybody with a 1/4 notification in advance of the new rate increase. The next chart is a cash flow analysis that shows or supports the rate increase that is being proposed. It shows that there is going to be projected in FY '23 of a loss of $612,000, which is going to be offset by our reserves, which is estimated at $1.9 million. And you can see subsequently, as the rate increases go forward, we're looking at projections in 2025 of reserves of under $500,000. Just to talk a little bit about Holyoke's rates right now, and this rate chart, this community rate comparison chart, is 2 years old. Holyoke currently has the lowest rates in the area, and a lot of these communities have subsequently raised their rates. Now, if the Water Commission was to impose the full rate increase of 25.5%, currently our water rates are still competitive with neighboring communities. I just want to point out also that other communities like Springfield, Chicopee have raised their rates. In fact, Springfield has proposed a 6% increase over the next 6 calendar years to offset a lot of their capital costs, and they also go forward with a 2 to 3% increase to cover a lot of their operational costs. So a lot of communities raise rates in a proactive manner. The Water Department, Holyoke Water Works, does it in a reactive manner. So as these projects surface and these payments become due, we raise the rates to offset those costs. Now, I also want to mention that historically, we're still looking at a decline in water consumption. Over the last 20 years, you can see there was a 37% decline in water usage, and currently in this fiscal year, we're looking at a little less than a 3% decline in usage or conservation. So we're still having issues with water usage declining, but it's just something that we have to deal with. Now, other sources of funding. The Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure law in 2021, and $1.1 billion was allocated for Massachusetts over the next 5 years. Massachusetts received $188 million for water and wastewater in 2022. Now, there is going to be $41 million assigned specifically for water projects that the Holyoke Water Works is going to apply for. And the reason we're going to be applying for this, and this is going to be for the 3A and also for the 3B, is because we're looking at a fixed interest rate of 2% and a loan forgiveness of up to 20%. That's a better interest rate than the city's current bonding rate. The city just recently bonded the $7.8 million bond with an average of 2.97%. So this is a much more attractive rate, and the loan forgiveness of 20%. It only makes sense to pursue these programs. Did I rattle through that too fast?
No, David, you're fine. Although I think you're over your 10 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Slightly, Butch, slightly. No, do not apologize. You're a wealth of information, and I'm reading a lot of good news in your presentation. Can we just revisit, because I got it, but I just want to make sure I got it good. The SRF, the State Revolving Fund, that's a grant or a loan?
It's a loan.
Okay, and that's the 2%?
It's through the state. It's a fixed rate of 2%, but there's also a second component to that program, which is loan forgiveness. And it's up to 19.8%. Now, Holyoke is a Tier 3 community, which means it receives a higher loan forgiveness rate than other communities. And that's based on median income.
The projects dealing with the replacement of distribution lines, particular the Morgan Street, Fairfield Avenue Street. How is the status of the water pressure and where we are now?
Oh, significant improvement, not only in circulation, but fire protection. And we've added a considerable number of additional fire hydrants to the system. So we also interconnected with the transmission mains. There's a transmission main that's on Pleasant Street, and there's a transmission main that is on Northampton Street. And the prior water system wasn't connected at both locations. So what we did was we connected these transmission mains with all new 8-inch ductile iron pipe, and we improved the circulation in the system. So significant improvement in fire protection, not only in Fairfield Avenue, but Morgan Street, Nonotuck Street, and also in Pearl Street. Now, all those water mains have been activated and the fire hydrants are active. The only remaining work, again, is road restoration and sidewalk repair.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Tomlin.
Thank you, Dave, for that explanation, and it's a lot to digest, but I know we had discussion on this. Could you just sort of explain again the rate? You said April 15th, but then you said something about January. So people's bills, they get a notice in April stating they would be going up?
Yes, we put a notification on the April billing cycle that they would receive an increase, their water rates would be increased when they received their bill in July.
Okay.
So
July.
what we did was the water that's used prior to the July billing will be reflected with the new rate, will be calculated with the new rate. So that's why we provided the notification in advance, because the January 15th billing is based on the usage from the prior 3 months. That's why we had to give the notification in April.
Okay. And on that, the rate, and I know they wanted to phase it over a few years, and now we held off because of COVID and other things. So is this rate just this one-time rate, or will there be another increase coming?
Well, there is subsequent increases coming. The board is going to look at rate increases individually each year.
Each year.
Okay. And that all depends on the stability of the department. Now, certainly if we receive any additional funding, either through our carbon program or through our forestry program, and we can offset some of those increases, or if we receive any additional money through the ARPA program, I mean, all that will be factored in, and there'll be, an additional review of the information before the commission imposes the next increase. But certainly, the commission is going to look at this every year.
Okay. And as far as usage, we know part of it is because of the sewer rate and the increase in the sewer rate, what people are trying to conserve. But is there anything the department's doing to try to get more customers or business, or is there a way of people to utilize the water system more? Because you hate to see that number keep going down. Does it look like last year is a slight increase, or no?
We're actually our consumption for this fiscal year is down.
Oh, this year it is down.
Down
Okay.
by a little less than 3%, yes. And it's attributed to conservation, and it was a relatively wet year in last year. So
Right.
there's a number of factors that some of which I can explain and others which I can't. But that does affect our revenue.
Right, and that's a big thing, and I just, we get millions or billions of gallons of water, and we need people to utilize it, and as far as, trying to get customers or trying to get businesses that utilize it, has the cannabis industry utilized so much any more water than you notice a change in the usage? No. Not really?
No, a minimal amount of usage.
Okay.
They recycle a lot of their water too. Now, they use a lot of electricity, but on the water end, no. There's a lot of recycling. So we're not seeing any major increase as a result of the cannabis program. One thing I do want to say is that, Holyoke's water rich. We use a fraction of the water that is available to us. And one of the things that people will see in Holyoke, you'll never see water bans or water restrictions. as you see in a lot of other communities.
You're seeing that
So,
now, right?
and there is going to be, in the future, there's a possibility that Holyoke will be able to provide water to a lot of other communities, because a lot of our surrounding communities have groundwater sources, and we're seeing that a lot of these communities are faced with contamination from these man-made compounds, PFAS compounds, and we're seeing a lot of testing now. Now, Holyoke has tested for PFAS compounds, and it's undetected in our water supply. We have a surface water supply, but you're seeing a lot of these groundwater sources like West Springfield, Westfield, that are finding these contaminants in their water supply. So I think Holyoke's well-positioned in the future to be servicing other communities with water. Is it something that's going to happen now? No. But in the future, there's a good possibility that we will be augmenting a lot of these neighboring communities.
Okay. I appreciate that. I think that's all I have for right now.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, always a pleasure to see David and our new water commissioners. They all do a fantastic job. Of course, I'll have to say, I leave the place and they're already jacking up the rates just within a couple of months. So see what happens when Councilor Jordan leaves. But no, in all seriousness, this 12 cents is needed. But I just want to make sure I understand what you guys approved. Did you approve the whole 12 cents staggered in, or did you just approve 5 cents for now and you're going to revisit another increase? You're projecting the other 7 cents for next year.
We're just proposing a 5-cent increase, which represents a 10% increase in the water rates for fiscal year 23. And then for fiscal year 24, this will be revisited, and the board will, based on consumption, based on revenue, based on expenses, will decide how much the rates have to be adjusted for that particular year. So they're only approving the 5 cents for this year.
Okay. So, but what you're saying to the council is you think you're probably going to need another 7 cents.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So you feel to cover the $20 million bond minus, the ARPA money and some of the SRF money, you think you need 12 cents to cover it?
Yes, that's what the projections show us. And certainly if there's a change in that, the rates will be adjusted accordingly.
Okay. All right. Just so people can understand what we're dealing with. I have a few different, first of all this work, people need to understand, this all absolutely needs to be done. This is all vitally important work. The water department, one of the things, and I had a brief 3-year hiatus during my time away from the city council. I had the pleasure, thankful to my city council colleagues to give me the honor of their vote to be one of the 3 water commissioners. It was tremendously enjoyable experience to be there for 3 years to do my part to contribute. And what a wonderfully well-run department that is. And I'm so impressed with how well they take care of the city's equipment, how they tried their very best to stay on top of everything, and are tremendous stewards of our reservoirs. And of course, that all starts at the top with Dave Conti, is legendary. I mean, the guy's just unbelievably knowledgeable. I can only hope guys like you and and Butch and others who have been there forever would write a book about the water system, because that knowledge we do not want to lose. You guys are encyclopedias on Holyoke's water system. But what I also wanted to talk to you about was a couple of things. One is carbon credits. How much do you see predicted for those going forward? And then I also wanted to talk to you about other capital needs. So we have this 12 cents, but we also know reality is, and I think we need to pull this Band-Aid off and do it as a community, is filtration. I'd like you to talk about that tonight if you would, and give us some of your thoughts as to how we can fund that. The thinking I understand is this is probably around a $20 million bill, but we think we might qualify for some grant money. So could you talk on those two questions, Dave, please?
Okay. Well, we have not received any additional carbon money as of yet. If we do receive additional carbon money, certainly that will be addressed, and it will be part of the decision-making with regards to what the next rate increase will be. With regards to filtration, Holyoke did receive another approval for an additional year. Our waiver is approved annually by the state, and we continue to meet the regulations for avoidance of filtration. So, you know, we're still able to kick the can down the road, so to speak, but there is all this infrastructure money that's coming in, and we're in a position that we really need to take a look at taking advantage of that. So if we can possibly get the funding that we need from the state through this SRF program, which is the State Revolving Fund program, and we can reduce those capital costs. And how do we reduce those capital costs? 2% fixed loan and a loan forgiveness of up to 20%. The board's position was, why not apply for that now? So right now, we're in the process of when the next round of ARPA funds comes out, which is the application process, which is going to be August of 2022, we are going to be applying for funding for a conceptual design and piloting. And what a conceptual design is, it pretty much determines what type of filtration will be used and what that cost will be. Now, I can tell you that we're looking at direct filtration, which would be granular activated carbon, okay? And what we want to do is we want to build a system that not only treats the water, but that can treat other compounds should they become present in the future, like PFAS 6s. We want to have that flexibility in our system. We want to also build this facility so that it's built upon the existing system that we have. So we want to continue to utilize the current methods of treatment. We want to continue to utilize UV disinfection for crypto and for Giardia, and we want to build this on a footprint that we've designed so that it's going to be more or less modular. That's been the goal of this department. Now, once we put a number to this, and more or less what piloting is going to determine what's the best method of treatment. But we have a pretty good understanding based on our water quality. Now, Holyoke has a tremendously good water quality. I don't think a lot of people understand that, but our water, just throwing numbers out, treated water, turbidity in treated water is typically below 0.3, okay? Below 0.3. Most treatment plants treat their water and the turbidity levels are around 1.5 to 1.8. Holyoke's water unfiltered is 0.25. 0.25 right now. That's almost as good as filtered water, okay? And so what turbidity essentially means is that if you have 1.0, the water, you can actually start seeing a slight tint anything over 1. Our water is 0.25. That's how good of a quality we have, and it's because of the characteristics of the reservoir. It's a very deep reservoir. It's very deep, and as a result of it, the water quality is very good. Low TOCs, low turbidity. The problem that Holyoke faces, and I think this is what a lot of people experience, is that seasonally we have what they call reservoir turnover, and it's typically worse in the fall. What reservoir turnover is when you have a deep body, like we do 130 feet, you have various thermal layers. And what happens is when the colder weather comes, these thermal layers flip. And when that flips, that stirs up a lot of the organic matter in the water, and it increases the turbidity in the water, and that's where you see this yellow tint. Now, typically we combat that with blending the water with our secondary source, which is the Mclean reservoir, okay? It's a much smaller body of water, it's shallower, it does not have the tendencies of having these issues with water quality. The problem last year was the Mclean Gatehouse was being renovated. So this is the reason why last year we were experiencing this long duration of discoloration. So in absence of filtration, our water quality is very good, but you still are going to be experiencing in the spring and in the fall this discoloration, which we do receive a lot of complaints about. But for the most part, the water is really, really clean and of a high quality. Filtration, again, would solve that problem. You would not have these issues, but there's a cost associated with filtration. Okay, you're looking at an excess of $20 million to build this filter. That's what we're talking about, in excess. Those are rough estimates. Now, even under the SRF program, even if we receive funding under SRF and we have a loan forgiveness, you're still looking at $15 million possibly in principal and interest payments, which is going to result in another 20 to 25% increase on top of the current increase. So these are a lot of things that need to be discussed with the board, with the city council, as to what direction this department wants to go. Do we bite the bullet now, or do we continue to kick the can down the road and see if we can find other means of subsidizing some of these costs? But I don't think we're going to be in any better of a position than we are today with all this infrastructure money than to take a hard look at this funding program and then make a decision if it's in the best interest of the city to move forward with filtration. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I'm glad you're going to do that. I would encourage the commission to do that. I think you need to develop the business plan now to effectuate that. I think you're right. I think your instincts are correct that this is probably the best time with federal money and otherwise going around. I would encourage the mayor to dedicate more of the next round of ARPA funding towards these type of infrastructure improvements. This is an opportunity for the city with these funds to catch our breath and to really invest in a lot of this deferred work that has needed to be done to rebuild the infrastructure of this community. I know as tempting as it is, and everybody has their hand out to get these, and there's so many quote unquote worthwhile programs that are out there. This is an opportunity, unique as it is, for this community to catch its breath on a lot of this capital work, and these are vital investments we need to be making back into the community. And if we can leverage that with, SRF covering 20%, and we can get a 2% loan, and maybe we can get ARPA money to pay 50%. Say we got 5 to 7 million of ARPA or other infrastructure dollars that are out there. We could probably do this major project, which would be fantastic for the future of this community, on really probably small dollars. Maybe we only end up paying $5, $6, $7 million ourselves of this. So this is something we need to seriously consider. I would ask that you would work with the mayor, work with the city council to develop a business plan to do this. Obviously, ask you to really dot your I's and cross your T's to make sure that if there is $1 to be saved on the rates, that we do that. But I'm also mindful of the fact that, we're talking even fully phased out, we're around $100 a year, for all of these things. I mean, we're talking this year, I think it's $40 for the year. So these are definitely improvements that need to be made. So, because it goes to fundamental safety and water quality, and what's more essential than that in a community too. So thanks, Dave. I appreciate this update. I would also encourage, if you haven't given the counselors a copy of the presentation that you made to the Taxpayers Association, I would encourage, if you would, to send that around to the city councilors. I think that would be, that's jam-packed full of great information, if you get a chance.
Certainly.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Counselor. Is there any other discussion? Commissioners, Mr. Kane, Commissioner Seidel, we appreciate you here. I know it's kind of a tough act to follow, but is there anything that you wanted to add? Thank you for your work, both of you. And please tell Bill, Commissioner Harbless, that we thank him also. Kevin, I noted that you blamed the rate increase as soon as you left the Water Commission. It sounds like President Trump blaming President Biden as soon as he left office for the budget, you know? We won't go into that much further.
No.
Chair, entertain a motion that we've done our duty, we've been complied with the discussion here.
Motion to discussion with the Water Works on the new rate increase has been complied with.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The chair can make a suggestion that we take up items 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a package.
Motion to take items suspend the rules and take items 3, 4, 5, and 6 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take items 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a package. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm going to quickly read item 6 first, and then we'll go right into the proposals in front of us as items 3, 4, and 5 are. Item 6 is a communication we received at the full City Council meeting on May 4th, dated April 27th of this year. It's from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, their Chief Executive Officer, Jack McCarthy, and it's addressed to our mayor with copies to the City Council, School Committee, Building Committee, and so forth. Dear Mayor Garcia, I am pleased to report that the Board of Massachusetts School Building Authority, known as the MSBA, has voted to approve the City of Holyoke District to partner with the MSBA in conducting a feasibility study for the William R. Peck School, and further voted as part of its invitation for the feasibility study to proceed into a schematic design to replace the existing Peck School with a new facility serving grades 6 through 8 on the existing site of the proposed project, contingent upon the district's meeting with the conditions detailed below. The rest of the communication details what are items 3, 4, and 5. Briefly, if permission of the committee, briefly summarize this. Each of them is what is part of the proposal coming from the school buildings, public schools themselves, but the first is what would be item 3 is that the City Council agrees to use the district's prior feasibility study conclusion to proceed with the new construction at the Peck School. Now, item 4 is that the City Council proceed with using the previously selected consultants in accordance with the letter of the Attorney General's office dated February 10, 2021. And item 5 is that the City Council would like the MSB to invite the district to use the MSBA's model school program to explore if this option would have some financial benefit to this Peck School project. With the committee's permission, I think that details the rest of the Chief Executive Officer's letter here. He goes into a lot of detail about the MSBA's acceptance of the project. And of course, I think the City Council knows that we went over a lot of this detail before we agreed to allow for the bonding for the both the feasibility schematic design phase of the project. Knowing that the failure of the last proposal and understanding the benefits of sticking with the consultants, sticking with the part of what we can with the design, of course, is going to have to be modified, and the new option being the possibility of an MSBA's model school program being taken advantage of to save costs to the City of Holyoke and, of course, to the MSBA's reimbursement. With that in mind, we have with us this evening our superintendent/receiver of the Holyoke Public Schools, Anthony Soto, and the chairperson of the School Building Committee, Erin Burnell, also School Committee woman, Erin Burnell. Welcome to everybody. Anthony, did you want to start us off here? Each of these orders were introduced under our president's name, designed for separate votes, but designed so that we could talk about them, but certainly we can talk about this collectively.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor McGivern, and thank you to the School Building Committee, Erin Burnell, and everybody involved, and the City Council for getting us this far. I think the the language that you have in front of you is just an example of the MSBA, committing to working with us. This is not something that they've ever dealt with before. So they're just looking for a few votes from the city council that would help us move forward in a way that allows us to explore a few options that could save the city some funding. So as you mentioned, they're looking to get a formal request from the city council to explore the model school option to see if that in fact would save money. It would not cost us anything to explore that option. We would know without any additional cost whether or not that's a model we would want to move forward with, or if we want to move the more traditional route, or actually I don't even want to say traditional, because what the language in front of you also says that if that doesn't save money, we want to use the previous designers. As you all know, we had come to you previously to seek for I think $475,000 for a feasibility study, but that amount was based on the assumption that we could use the old designers and the old OPM and designers, and that they could leverage a lot of the work that they had already done. So this really just formalizes it with the MSBA that is the desire of this body to explore those two options. So we've worked really hard with the school building committee and all of the subcommittees involved, and we thankfully were invited into the feasibility phase, and we moved on from eligibility. So now they're just looking, before we move forward, they're looking for these few votes from the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Aaron, you're welcome if you wanted to make any opening comments, or are you here to answer questions? Or both?
I wasn't planning on making any comments, just here for support, and if you guys have any direct questions that I can help with. To second what you and Anthony both said, it's quite an honor to be welcomed back into the process with the MSBA after the last project, unfortunately, wasn't a success. So I just look forward to working with the city council to move forward and get this accomplished.
Thank you. Anthony, obviously this is about a well-needed project within the schools, and when we've been briefed and talked about the entire project and what it means in terms of more efficient ways of using school buildings, the closing of some school buildings once a junior middle school is built, and so forth. But with the finance committee, as always, this is about cost and about being a partner with the schools and about being a partner with the MSBA. I think you explained in detail that the model school program is only an option if it's going to save costs. And certainly being at the last joint school committee meeting and watching and learning from the school building authority committee, I know that is being discussed in great detail, and I know in the future you'll be able to respond to the possibility of it saving money. It may go without saying, but if we do go back to the consultants, it's not going to be the exact same design, or is it going to be utilized, part of what was designed for the original project 2 years ago? Is that safe to say? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I don't think it'll be the exact same design. They'll use like the majority of what the work that was already done, because there's a lot in there that was a part of the initial feasibility study, and they'll update it for obviously there's we have to go through the school building committee as well, to see if there's any, what if any changes came out of the ed plan. We did submit our educational plan, I believe, last week to the MSBA. So they'll review that once again to see if there were any major changes that would impact the design. And then the biggest change is like really getting an update on the budget. You know, many of you know construction costs have gone up and the cost of supplies have gone up, and part of the feasibility study is to put forward a reasonable budget that the city, you know, we could actually get, here's what the project is going to cost. All of that information is completely outdated, given, you know, how much time has gone by.
Thank you. Aaron, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, as far as, you know, the model school, it's a lot more not just about the cost savings that would happen, but the MSBA needs to, it's up to them to determine if our education plan and our plans moving forward would fit into one of their model school programs. So it will come from them whether or not we'll be welcomed into that version of the plan. But it would create some cost savings if we were able to fit into, but with the site at Peck and the land issues, it's not likely, but you know, if we were, then that would be great.
Thank you. And I wasn't downplaying, you know, the importance of the design itself, model school, or the, you know, the existing design that's in place is part of what, you know, most important part of the education plan and so forth. I just sometimes tend to think when we're in the finance committee, we talk about dollars, but we do need to know all the angles of what's going on, and I appreciate that. Is there any questions from the committee or any questions from city councilors?
Well, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, very good.
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, what they're proposing here doesn't seem to me to be very controversial. So it seems like if we're going to move forward to do it, obviously, this is all still pending the final numbers and what the state is ultimately going to contribute and what the city would have to contribute. But what they're proposing makes a lot of sense, that if you are, you know, to try and save as much cost as you can, and if to have a model school option on the table seems prudent, that we would consider all those options, right? So it seems to me that we would want to adopt all three of these proposals, or at least the one, and then the other two, I think maybe perhaps are complied with.
If that's a question, I think, you know, the communication kind of states that we need to adopt each of these points, or at least, as you just stated, you know, say that we understand the reasons behind each of these points for going forward, which are multiple reasons. But, you know, from our point of view, I think a lot of it is the feasibility and the cost. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Jardine. I believe, you know, I'm on the school building authority also, and I think it's these bullets, these 3 points that the MSBA wants us to know that the city council is on board with the school to look at the cost of this, and there's nothing final being done until we see what the cost is and what the state will be putting towards the project. So I believe it's basically each point that the city council is approving moving forward with the schools to the MSBA on this issue.
I agree. I'll make a motion that we adopt all three.
I'll second that.
Motion made second to adopt all three. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none in the chamber, seeing none. Anthony, Mr. Soto.
Yeah, I just want to express my thanks to everyone, but I also want to state that we do have on July 9th at 6 p.m., we did extend an invite to every city councilor to tour the Peck site. I really, really welcome anyone who questions whether Peck is the right place, or just in general. I think, you know, you guys are making an important vote in the next year or so on this project. I think it would be really, really great for anybody that has the time on June 9th to get out there at 6 p.m. Whitney will be over there, and other members of the school building committee. We want to have as many city councilors as we can, and school committee members, and would love to give you a tour of Peck. So thank you.
On June 9th at 6 p.m.? Okay, thank you. And if any neighbors showed up, I'm sure you would accommodate them too, right?
Absolutely.
Just to be transparent, not transparent, but just to be upfront, just to remind everybody that we are currently, we certainly have listened to our financial advisor, Cindy McNary. We've listened to the auditor, to the mayor, and we do have an order that's being worked on right now that we are doing a feasibility or a cost of feasibility study of where the city is right now in terms of the final vote, which Councilor Jordan alluded to, which is always the last vote of the city council, which is the bonding for the project. We're looking forward to looking at our analysis of what we can afford and looking forward to what the MSBA is going to be able to give us in terms of assistance. And I certainly hope that this project, for all the good reasons and all the right reasons, will come to a happy ending. But just to let you know, that is in the works. Chair would entertain a motion on items, the chair heard a motion on 3, 4, and 5 that we adopt and recommend that to the full city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair suggests on item 6, the letter from the MSBA, that we receive it, keep a copy in the archives for future reference when we are looking at the final votes on the bonding for said project.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Anthony, Aaron, thank you very much. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you. Motion to take item number 7 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to take item 7 off the table. It's a copy of the it's a copy of the new fire chief's contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. You're terrible. We have, I'm sorry, off the table for discussion, we have the copy in front of us. This doesn't happen that often, and sometimes there's confusion, but we also have the law department with us. I'm not sure if it's Attorney Degan or Attorney Bissonette who is here to speak on the contract.
I apologize. I was not involved in the negotiation for this contract, so I'm afraid I can't speak knowledgeably about it. I am not sure about Attorney Bissonette. Mike? Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
No, I'm afraid this is not part of my charge as well. I think this is one that was handled by outside counsel during the negotiations. I know there were negotiations with the fire union, the police union, the incoming fire chief. So I believe all of those were handled by outside labor counsel.
With us this evening is Mayor Garcia. I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Mayor, but the contracts, are delegated, and whoever does the negotiations do it on behalf of the mayor.
It was Lisa. Lisa Ball did work on that contract. I can give her a call if you want to. I can see if she's available to jump on, and you can go take on another agenda item.
Let me just, with the Councilor Jordan, his hand is up, and I think the first question is, does this contract need the approval of the city council is what we're looking at. And then the highlights of the contract, we can all go through that, but I think it gets confusing on that point.
What about the confirmation of the appointment?
That's the contract confirmation of the appointment, yeah.
So my guess is the contract is just there for you to review, and as you go forward in this process, for confirmation of the appointment of the fire commissioners.
Let me just check. Councilor Jordan?
Got Jeffrey on too.
I had one question. I just wanted to confirm that the new fire chief is a resident of the city of Holyoke.
Apologies, because I haven't introduced our fire chief here, but John, please come in and have a seat. You know, he is with us this evening, and I was trying to get to that as gracefully as possible because I wanted to, before we started talking, make sure we're all on the same page.
I'm not at this moment, Counselor, but I understand.
Hey, can you use the microphone, please? I can't hear him.
I just did. I apologize. I'm not at this moment, Counselor, but I do realize that I need to come back.
Okay, so when did you start as fire chief, or you haven't started yet?
I don't officially start until the 18th.
Okay, so will you have it resolved by then, or what's your timeline?
Normally you would get, I know the Chief Ponda got a year from the date of appointment. So I'm hoping to be able to resolve it by the end of that.
Yeah, well, the charter doesn't say a year, so what John Pond got, good for John Pond, but
Okay.
technically, we do need to follow what the law says, and the law says you're supposed to be a resident, so.
Understood.
I don't know, I don't think we should have to wait a year, you know, I just want to make sure we're managing expectations on that.
Yes, sir.
You know, again, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I do have to, you know, just make sure, you know, whoever's telling you, or if you're having those conversations, we do have rules on that stuff.
I haven't had any conversation with anyone, sir. I just, I
Okay.
understand what I need to do.
Okay. All right. Can you let us know when that's taken care of?
I will.
Thank you. Best of luck to you, and I've heard a lot of great things, and wish you the best, John.
Thank you, Counselor.
Take care.
Mayor, did you have any luck with the city solicitor?
Jeff's got his hand up too.
And to our administrative assistant, Jeff?
Yeah, I did mention to Attorney Ball that this was being taken up tonight, and I forwarded your question to her that you asked if this was just notification or if the council approved this. She said the council is just receiving this, and she said it isn't much different from Chief Preskopowski's contract.
The contract prior to that, the city council had to approve it, and the contract prior to that, the city council had to approve it. And I questioned why the city council didn't have to approve the good Chief Jeff's contract, but that's just my humble opinion. We get new city solicitors and we get new rules. I'm sure Kathleen and Michael will let Lisa know what I just said.
Yes, Counselor.
Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
With that in mind, though, I think a little review of the contract is in order. I guess the question to the committee is, do we want to do that without the solicitor, or do we want to try and do it with the chief and the mayor?
I think we should table it, Mr. Chairman, until, you know, whoever
solicitor, yeah.
negotiated it.
We're just looking to see if the solicitor can come online, Councilor Durning. We got her in the communication with the mayor at the moment.
So maybe we should table it as the mayor suggested, and if she can come, then we bring it back up, and if she can't, we'll do it at maybe our next meeting.
I think she's going to be online. I think he said.
Yes,
Okay.
we can do that.
Well,
She's getting online. He said.
Jeff, do you have the solicitor coming on?
I don't see her yet. I'll bring her up to a panelist the moment I see her.
While we're waiting for her, the chair will entertain a motion just to lay this on the table for a moment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Chief, you can stay there.
You stay. Yeah, we'll be.
We can move to item.
Want to take up item number 8?
Item number 8. Motion to take off the table. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Oh, wait a minute. Councilor Barley? You know what? I think Councilor Barley's got a good suggestions. I apologize to the ladies, but
All right.
there's another reason for this, because we're waiting for someone else to talk about
Well,
what we're talking about, number 8.
Suspend the rules and take out of order number 10.
Take out of order item number
Number
10,
10.
introduced by Councilor
Discussion.
Bartley. DPW mayor consider repairing the sidewalk and tree belt approximate to the 548 South Street area. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Councilor Bartley, did you want to say something?
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So my goal tonight, first of all, thank you for taking it up. My goal tonight is probably just to lay it back on the table. And because what I believe I did, and I'll have to talk to the chair, I believe I sent it to public safety for the purposes of having a discussion with the Department of Public Works and that committee to see if it made sense. And then if it did make sense, I would probably just ask that committee to send some kind of a comment or a vote to this committee, and then to work with this committee and the mayor to see if there'd be an appropriate appropriation for this. So what I was, and I think when I originally filed the order, I think I had a little pie in the sky, but I think it really can be addressed with a pretty straightforward appropriation from the mayor, just to improve the tree belt in that area. I don't think we have, and maybe even just do a curb cut, frankly, because it already is a double sidewalk, and I think it's going to be a really nice addition to the South Street area. But if we could sort of cut the curb a little bit to, just have a carve in to allow for better parking, I think that would really help tremendously. What we did in ordinance has already helped, because we've limited the parking there to a certain period. I think it's 1 or 2 hours during certain times of the day and days of the week, and that's already had a real positive effect on the business. And so I think if we can find a couple dollars, if it makes sense to public safety, to carve that in a little bit with the guidance of the Public Works director, whenever that person comes on board, and the city engineer, then a vote can be taken, that committee, Joe and Pete, and then we could just send that to city council, and then we can ask the mayor for an appropriation and for this body to review. So I'm kind of hoping that explanation is somewhat clear and we can lay it on the table.
No, it's fine, and we appreciate that. Jeff, our administrative assistant, did reach out to Amy, who at a prior meeting had told us she was here for a number of items, that she would get some cost estimates. So I believe that's not available yet, but and with what you just said, Councilor Bartley, those cost estimates and the mayor and the possibility of doing this is in the works. So if that's okay with you, we'll just make a motion to lay on the table.
Yep, that's great.
Motion to table item number 10.
If there is no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. I think we can do item number 9 real quick.
Motion to take item number 9 off the table for discussion.
Motion made, second to take item 9 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is introduced by Councilor Jordan and Councilor Rivera, that the Council on Aging provide the City Council with a report for the period of fiscal year 2017-2022 on the Service Tax Work-Off Program, which was established by Ordinance 82-4. Specifically, we'd like to know how many seniors have signed up each year for the lottery, how many were selected each year, what date, and how they, and where and how conducted, what departments did they work, is the report made of their work, and how much the taxes worked off in total. The program is the program properly advertised? Is it functioning and is attended? And should there be any modifications to the program for the future, such as the changing of the $750 annual limit for tax write-offs? Off the table for discussion, Councilor Jordan, Councilor Rivera, I did ask the administrative assistant to put this on the agenda. There was a report received. I just wanted to touch base with the makers of the order to see if you have that report and if you're satisfied with that report itself.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have received the report. I am satisfied with it. I think there was some discussion about maybe some more advertising, as well as, just getting the outreach out there. But with the exception of 1 year, pretty much about 60% of the people that apply make it in the lottery. So basically, that's about what the calculation is. And it appears that about $20,000 a year in tax relief is given out under the program. They did articulate the different departments. I thought they did a nice job with the statistics on it. I think in the future, it might be helpful if the departments sort of do a report that talks about how we're saving money by virtue of doing this program, because I think we are. I think that the value that we're getting from these residents is greater than $20,000. So I think it creates real value. Besides, obviously, it's creating an opportunity for people to give back to their community. I think it's a wonderful program. But we're getting about roughly 50 applicants a year for 30 slots, effectively. And I just wonder if we could get more applicants than 50, potentially, if we did a little bit more advertising. So I think we should encourage that maybe more with perhaps the utility bills or other ways to do it. But overall, I think it's being obviously well done. And I know the people that have participated in it find it extremely rewarding. And so I thank them for complying with the order, and I think we're good to go.
Councilor Tomlin.
Yeah, just briefly, I really thank Councilor Jordan and Councilor Rivera bringing this up. And looking at this program, as Councilor Jordan stated, there's close to 50 people each year. There was 1 year that it was off. We only had 24 in 2021, but and the people selected, it's 30 every year except for 2021. But majority of those people had completed the program. Almost 90% of the people had completed the work program, and it's definitely a benefit. And also just point out that there's also a veterans tax write-off program to help veterans to help put some work in with these different city departments and to earn well-needed for several of our residents tax credits towards their tax payments to the city. So it's a great program, and I think there is some ways that we could advertise a little bit better. And with that sheet, the letter, there is the application, and see if we can get some of these applications out to different areas so people are more accessible to people to sign up for this. Because a lot of times it's probably the same people that are applying all the time, and year after year they get their credit. But I think there'll be an opportunity for new people to get into this program and to save some tax dollars in the long run. So it's an excellent program, and I hope it continues.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I want to just thank the makers of the order too. This is something similar to what we asked for, right, gentlemen, when we want to get feedback on the grants, when we want to get feedback on the property preservation group, because now we have it's actually semi-annual reports from the property preservation group. So, and not only does it help us learn, obviously the main point is to let the public know what your city government is doing to try to address some of these needs. And this one, I hope, will be kind of an annual or semi-annual review as to what kind of bang for the buck the city is receiving for this. So thank you.
Thank you. Would there be any further discussion?
Motion that the item's been complied with.
Motion made, second, the items are complied with, and I suggest that we, on a side note, ask our administrative assistant to reach out to some of the powers to be about advertising a little bit different and maybe getting some more, as Councilor Jordan pointed out, some more applicants. With that in mind, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
So moved.
Nobody in here yet?
Why don't we go to item number 8, please?
Motion to take item number 8 off the table for discussion.
Motion made, second, to take item 8 off the table for discussion. This is my request on the agenda is that we revisit or look for the updated legal opinion on the expenditures of CPA funds for Gales Incorporated. We have in attendance our city solicitor, Assistant City Solicitor Kathleen Degan, who worked on this, our Assistant City Solicitor Michael Bissonette. Megan McGrath is with us from the Greater, Girls Inc. Don't know why I'm saying, and I'm not sure if Amy's with us this evening, but I know Amy will catch up to speed, Lando from the CPA. But with that in mind, the last time we left this, we had a lot of questions about the issue of CPA funds being used for not just this specific program, but for other programs under similar circumstances. And Kathleen, I believe you were going to work on the opinion and get back to us. Would you be able to update us on that?
Yes, councilors. Good evening. I want to tell you that I did revisit the issue. I looked at some opinions from the Division of Legal Services. I looked at some, I think there are national park standards. Still, there is no case law on this issue except one case that doesn't have to do with maintenance. It's not what this is. So I did review the second piece of information submitted by Barry, the engineers, and there's another additional subsequent letter from the architects. Mr. Barry talked about the masonry, and the architects were talking about the slate roofing. And with respect to the masonry, what I have is an offer, okay? Because this information, I know I had a conversation with Megan about this, and I want to say right now that I have respect. I know the folks at the Community Preservation Commission that they have, they're diligent, they're dedicated, so I don't wish what I'm saying to suggest anything different. It's just that there wasn't sufficient information, I thought, to make a decision in favor. However, when I got the letter from the engineer, which by the way, I'm considering it now, I'm not suggesting that it should be a matter of practice that we consider what I'll call a late file. And I did talk to Megan on this issue a little bit, and she indicated that these people didn't really know that this level of detail is required. So I think that we should put together perhaps an internal policy. I mentioned that to Megan. I know that there's also the request of perhaps an ordinance, but I think because of the level of detail that the second letter from Barry gave, I would be willing to say that the piece of the masonry piece, I think that we could do because of the level of detail that the second letter went into. Also, excuse me, the plaque for $2,000, that's something that the city requires. So I am willing to throw this offer out there, and it's just by way of a settlement, actually. You know how that works. When one side says they're not liable and the other side says they're not liable, but they come to the middle in order to resolve the dispute. That's kind of what I'm coming to here. I don't mean to suggest that this is something we should do all the time. And I just want to be clear with respect to some of the standards I looked at. They're interesting, but they don't analyze, and I don't see why they would. They don't analyze Chapter 44B, Section 5, Clause B2. They're talking about national standards. The state has gone a little bit further with that. And legally, you know, when you have two bodies of law that are writing on the same issue, I mean, you can draft something that's more stringent, which I think is what we have here with the state. But I just wanted you to know that I did look at the standards. I did look at some opinions put out by the DLS. Unfortunately, they were painting. Their opinions about painting and restoration and renovation, which that's not what this is. So it wasn't all that helpful. But I'm willing to offer the amount of $102,000 to be paid to Girls Inc. To resolve this issue. I'm sure, like with most compromises, there are going to be people from both sides of the aisle that aren't going to like this. I know this was an unpopular opinion, but that's what I came up with. So. If you want
Thank
to
you.
discuss that.
And I failed to mention, we also have Suzanne Parker with us from Girls Inc. Discussion, Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, well, first of all, again, I thank everybody involved. The CPA committee works really hard. These are volunteers that really do their best to make sure that this program is administered correctly. I think some of the takeaways from this is that between them and us, the city council, the other half of the equation, you know, Kathy has really, you know, brought some great points out here and given us now some ways to think about how we get better. And I really applaud the law department for their hard work on this and to try and find a reasonable solution, but also to talk about guidance, not for just this case, but for other cases in the future. Because what we don't want to have happen is a situation like I use the analogy of a scholarship committee, where, you know, everybody applies for a scholarship and you say, you know, you write what you think is the winning essay for the scholarship, and then at the end the committee says, gee, if you only said this, you know, your essay would have been so much better, you know, and just go back and rewrite it and say this, 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 and this, and we'll give you the scholarship money. We don't want that to be the case. And it was a little concerning about how it's like, here's the proposal, and then here's all the, yeah, I know we didn't tell you any of those things, but here's all this new information that we're gonna, and it's, you know, it just keeps sort of going on and on and on. But again, it was all in the spirit of trying to do the right thing. I think $102,000 is a very generous, I think the whole amount was $150 anyways. So I think that's extremely generous. I wish them good luck with the 102. If I were them, I would take the money and run. Just for the record, I wasn't even in favor of the 102. So I guess I'm on that other side of the aisle, to use Kathy's analogy. Not because I don't think the money is in a wonderful organization, which it is. That is never in dispute here. I just feel that I have my own policy reasons I'm against this, because of the fact that this CPA funds are supposed to be going towards public projects. We just had the wisteria hearse in here last night talking about, we need $300,000 minimum to go fix the wall for the wisteria hearse, and we don't know where that money's coming from. We need $250,000 to fix the chimneys at Wisteria Hearst. We don't know where that money's coming from. There's no question about the masonry there. Those are complete rebuilds of the chimneys. Maybe we'll get some money, maybe we won't. But I know where there's $102,000 of money that should be going to rebuild Wisteria Hearst right now, and it's not going to Wisteria Hearst, it's going up to Girls Inc. So, you know, who is, you know, is a national organization, is running a very successful $5 million drive. Bottom line is, people paid taxes to take care of their public buildings because we don't have much money. You know, we are not a wealthy community, and the generous taxpayers of Holyoke are giving us these funds for the purposes of taking care of things that we don't have in the budget. And we've got a laundry list of them. So that's kind of more my bigger policy issue, is maybe some glorious day in the future when Holyoke has all of its public projects covered, you know, and all the parks are covered and everything's covered, then we can start talking about giving money to other private organizations. That glorious day is not yet here. In the meantime, I think it's a growing moment so that we can advise these applicants, put your best foot forward, make your whole case, state everything, and then, you know, the CPA committee will do its decision. And then let's just all be crystal clear on one other thing. This requires a city council vote. I wasn't happy with the vote. As a matter of fact, the vote to approve this was 12-1. So I was the lone wolf. And that's, anybody that knows me over the last 30 years, that's a very common position often that I found myself in, to be the lone wolf. I don't mind that, because all I know is I make decisions based on what I think is right and the facts. And if someone changes the facts, I might change my opinion. But as long as I'm aware of the facts, I have no problem whatsoever to be the one out of a 12-1 vote. Having said that, the council by statute is just as involved in this process as the CPA committee, okay? It's a two-step process. They recommend, we say yes or no. So I was a little concerned when I've heard some people say, what is the mean old city council getting involved in all of this? We're getting involved because that's the law. That's the law. The law says we shall be involved, and we shall approve of this or disapprove of this. And I think if there's any takeaway in this conversation is people are watching, people are reading these things, and we're doing our due diligence to make sure the rules are being followed. And I know everyone here is operating with the best of intentions, but you know, people will read this stuff. And so in the future, I would say work closely with Kathy in the law department, make sure we establish good guidelines around these things for future applicants. And if they feel it would be helpful to codify some of these guidelines into an ordinance, I would be very warm to filing some of that. And I wish Girls Inc. the best of luck. I think they should take the $102,000. And I thank everybody that's been involved in this process.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a couple of comments. I did vote for the initial grant with the caveat that the project sought would be legitimate and allowed and eligible under the CPA law. And so I, along with at least some of the other counselors, weren't sure about whether it did qualify or not. So for me, throughout the earlier discussion and the initial review of the opinion that Attorney Degnan delivered to us, I find that her opinion is correct. So in light of the fact that I found her initial opinion to be correct, and I don't think there's anything that has happened since then to undermine that, I think that the settlement offer that she has put forth tonight, in the interest of using this as more of an educational opportunity than a punitive opportunity, is very generous. Because I do echo Councilor Jourdain's comments relative to the CPA volunteers. I think they're certainly functioning out of good intention. And I have to say, I wish some of our public departments would step up on getting applications before them, because I think there is a lot of need, and I think they are very diligent in reviewing the projects. But having said that, I think this is a point where we have received necessary clarification to differentiate between restoration and maintenance, so that we're all on the same page now. And I'm hearing Attorney Degnan say this is a one-off to settle a gray area, not of legal opinion, but a gray area of the understanding of more than one body relative to the law. So in that spirit, I think she's making a very generous, good faith settlement offer for all involved. Relative to the role of the city council, we have many bodies that are advisory to us. But at the end of the day, we run for council to represent the people that vote us in or out. And it is certainly our job to make sure that we are functioning within the guidelines of the law and giving that representation for the people appropriately. And the CPA is a tax that people voted for. It's coming up on its 5th year anniversary. I think people should have an opportunity to weigh in on it again. And I think the telling of how effective and how well we're doing in representing our taxpayers will be to put it before them and let them decide if they think we should continue with this for 5 more years. So that's my take on it. And I think it is a very positive spirited settlement that is before us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And if I could just add my 2 cents and we can move on with this. We have before us a copy of the original legal opinion, which has now been modified by our Assistant City Solicitor, and as always, Attorney Dagan, gives us detailed looks into the questions that the City Council has when it comes to law. I was one of the 12, obviously, and Councilor Jordan, I would always commend you for being a lone wolf. As long as you're not the big bad wolf, it's okay. But no, there's nothing wrong, and I think I've joined you in that status more than once myself, but maybe not quite as often as you've done it. But it's important. It's important that we look at all angles. CPA, I think, has been a wonderful blessing to the city, and I think most of our residents agree after some turbulent thoughts about whether it was the correct thing to do or not. A good portion of the monies come from the property owners themselves. The other comes from the fees that residents pay into the Registry of Deeds, office itself, and money that comes back through the state, which is indirect taxes, fees that come back for community projects. The one maybe small disagreement I have here is whether it's Girls Inc. or any not-for-profit, I don't see them as private. I see them as public entities that serve the public, and they are open to the public. And I see community preservation in the spirit of what I felt the Master General laws were about, is preserving, any type of community entity that offers services to the public, and certainly within the categories that are required, and one being the historic preservation, and of course, so on, housing and so on, but this one coming under the historic preservation of itself. With that in mind, I welcome the advice coming from the Assistant City Solicitor, and hope that this clears up the vote itself, the CPA original vote, the City Council's vote, and hope that we can get forward with this project. And I agree with both councilors that spoke previously that we probably need to look at this in more detail for future projects. With that in mind, Suzanne, did you come to listen? Did you have any questions? Okay, thank you and welcome, and thank you for joining us again. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, just to put my 2 cents in there, I really I think this is a learning lesson for everybody here, for the council, for the CPA, and for the applicants. I think this is money, as we could see that there's several departments, city departments, that could be applying for this CPA money, and it is money that I think has helped in several areas in our community, and really hope that I'm going to thank Attorney Degnan too for her work on this that we've been working on for maybe 2 months or longer to get us this opinion, and I think it's something that will satisfy all parties, hopefully, and that we will be able to look at things a little bit more detailed in the future. And I really do respect my colleagues that spoke earlier, Councilor Vacan and Councilor Jordan. I want to give you credit for speaking up, for looking into these different, even though sometimes I may not agree with you, but I respect you, and it's okay to be the lone vote, sometimes no vote, because you do your due diligence, and I really appreciate you standing up for, and Councilor Vacan, for the taxpayers of the city of Holyoke, because they're the ones that get us elected, and they're the ones that we're working for ultimately. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Motion that the order has been complied with is in order.
Motion item number 8 has been complied with.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved and so adopted. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, counselors.
Thank you,
Thank you, Attorney.
Kathleen.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Kathleen.
it as always. We have one item left. If we can go back to item number 7, please.
Motion to take item number 7 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 7 off the table for discussion. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is a communication from our city solicitor, Lisa Ball, and it's received by the full city council on May 4th and referred to the Committee on Finance. Encloses a copy of the new fire chief's contract for your review. Please note the fire commission will meet on May 19th so that they can obtain the chair's signature. On that motion to entertain discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Our city solicitor has joined us. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. And I'm not sure if the mayor spoke to you. The chief is with us, the mayor's with us this evening, and we have this contract before us. And we were hoping to review it. The appropriation for this contract is in the mayor's new budget for fiscal year 2023. And certainly, we'd welcome any review of the contract that we can report back to the city council itself next Tuesday.
Okay, do you want me to just to give you a brief overview? I don't have it in front of me. It's not a whole lot different than Chief Prespakowski's, except that the incoming chief, Katalevitz, was actually a pleasure to work with. I wanted to get a couple things out of the other contract that he agreed to take out that I did not think were good for the city. But what we really have in here is just some of the benefits that he has as a deputy chief. In terms of sick time and vacation time, we're not going to take that kind of time away from him, stuff that he's already earned. Personal days, he's got longevity. I think he's worked for the city at least 20 years. Let's see, the clothing allowance, he agreed to a reduction in the clothing allowance. The previous contract, I think it was $2,500. He agreed to reduce his to $1,400. The only thing that's different, I think, in John's contract versus Jeff is John is in the military, so we did add military leave into his contract. Other than that, it pretty much mirrors what we just came out of with Chief Prespakowski.
Thank you. So I can explain if I'm asked and make sure I have it correct. When you read the contract, the base is 136. The clothing allowance is 1,400. That gets rolled into the base.
I believe that's accurate, yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure. I just wanted to make sure I was saying it right. And there's a couple other perks that get rolled into it. And the line item in the budget, I'm going a little bit by memory. I think Councilor Tallman has his in front of us. But I think it's like 141,000, which if you add things together, it seems to come out to about that. And there are other clauses that were similar to Chief Preskopowski's contract, and I think prior contracts, where there is a relook when any of the contracts are up before the city if the mayor renegotiates and agrees to it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. With that in mind, Councilor Jordan.
Hi, Lisa. Back in the mid-90s, the city council created an ordinance that established the mechanism by which a police chief would be awarded a contract. Previous to that, it was basically you were set by pay by ordinance, and you were appointed by the mayor, reporting to the mayor. But we were asked by Mayor Saskovic at the time to create an ordinance that established a contract. no ordinance to my knowledge, or did I miss it, was established to establish the fire chief by contract. What's the statutory citation for a fire chief contract?
It's actually governed, there's a mass state law that governs it. I don't have that, I don't have that in front of me. And I'm not even 100% certain that, I don't think that the city has adopted it. I wasn't planning to talk on this tonight, or I would have had this all prepared for you, but I'm going on memory. I do not think that we adopted it, but there is a state law that at least does talk about it. We've had fire chief contracts at least as far back as John Pond. I'm not sure before John if we did or not, or why we came to have contracts, but we certainly, I know my last time here, we were negotiating a contract, I think it was with Chief Neiswanger at the time, so we were definitely doing police chief contracts.
Right, yeah, no, police chief is no problem, because that was actually somewhat controversial at the time, but I believe we passed an ordinance in 1996 that you'll see within the ordinance book on police chief contract, but to my knowledge, we never created such a law for fire chief contract. So I'm just kind of interested to understand what's the authority to even do this. Can you take a look at that and
I'd be happy
let
to.
me know? Yeah,
Sure.
let me know before we meet again. And I had already mentioned to John the whole residency thing. He said he's going to work on taking care of that, and he'll let us know. Other than that, there's nothing in this contract that would be more disadvantageous or anything. Sounds like, listening to what you said, this is probably better city-wise than the last contract, right?
It is, it absolutely is.
Okay. All right, that was all the questions I had. Thank you, Lisa.
If it helps, Councilor Jordane's reference, I believe, if you go back to that ordinance for the police chief, Mayor Dunn agreed with the city council, and there was a lot going on in those years to eliminate. It began with the elimination of the deputy chief of police, and the city council negotiated or discussed with Mayor Dunn, and Marty allowed the changing of some charter language and the changing of the way we pay the chief of police to have it by contract that would be eventually would be approved by the city council. The issue I brought up when we first learned that there were contracts for fire chiefs negotiated by the commission was contracts have a impact on an appropriation within a budget. In typical contracts that have impacts, anything that's negotiated, all contracts are negotiated by the mayor through the law department in most cases. And contracts that have an impact on an appropriation are subject to the appropriation, of course, subject to the city council vote. And that's why we've always received contracts to review and subsequently vote on the appropriation. This particular appropriation right now, the next one in front of us, barring what's existing in the line item for the rest of what's left of the fiscal year, the next one in front of us is the mayor's budget, which is the number I referred to, which would reflect this contract. So I guess Kevin's question, jumps my question. But does the city council vote on the appropriation with the knowledge of the contract, sufficient for the new chief and for going forward? Is that the way we're looking at it? And this is a professional contract, obviously, not a negotiated collective bargaining.
So I think it lines up, just the way some of the union contracts are going to line up with the budget this year, which is, I guess, ideal because, sometimes you can just budget for these things. I would imagine that Chief Prespakowski has budgeted for this and you're voting on the budget, but you're not necessarily voting on the contract, but yes, you are voting on the funding of it, but it is going to be part of the overall budget that you have in front of you this month.
But I think I hope you're in agreement with me, is that any contract that has an appropriation, whether it's a budget item or whether it's a transfer, which we're more used to in the middle of of a fiscal year, is still subject to a vote by the city council. If the city council votes down the appropriation, the contract becomes null and void. And I'm speaking more about,
Yes,
union
I mean,
contracts.
Yes, the city council does vote on the funding, certainly.
Okay, and that's why we need contracts appropriately in front of us prior to our votes, which I felt that's why this contract was given to us at the beginning part of May, but I don't want to read into it. I just want to make sure we're somewhere on the same page.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, I was looking for my legal citation on your point, and I think you are correct, as you normally are. I believe you're referring to ordinance 2-61, subparagraph B, which states that each member of the city council shall be furnished by the city solicitor's office a copy of every collective bargaining agreement. This would obviously be one, even though it's a person of one. A minimum of 10 days prior to the cost items of said agreement being submitted to the city council for approval. So I would assume that if we're supposed to get the agreement and then we're supposed to get a separate order that's supposed to say, like, this is how much it's going to cost. So you get the copy of the agreement and then you get an order saying, this is how we're going to fund it.
Yeah.
That is correct. And traditionally, we've accepted the copy of the contract, the weekend before a city council vote, as long as we had a chance to review it and decide if we want to vet it out in committee or just by the full city council. But yes, that's correct.
Was there an order for money for the fire chief position?
Well,
or was there sufficient money to...
we're getting back, and our city solicitor just alluded to it. Within the mayor's budget, there is budgeted items that will reflect contracts, union contracts that are in collective bargaining now. We haven't seen that in decades. There's nothing wrong with it. It just makes it a little trickier for us when we're doing the budget to know what the contracts are. Even though the line item may be passed in the budget, the contract has not been finalized. We do get to see the contract in the future, and then we can accordingly take a vote on that. I'm going by some precedent that's happened, again, not recent times, but in the past when the money for contracts is put in the budget. I think it was around Mayor Sullivan's time, the mayor stopped putting monies in the budget because the collective bargaining units got pretty smart and said, well, you got the money here, so we want it. And the mayor's kind of negotiating ability was taken out of their hands when knowing that the money is there, and the unions, were able to go for their members and go for the money that was available. But if that helps, I'm not trying to get off on a tangent. We have, if we could take a minute, I'd like to welcome the new chief again, and thank you for your patience. I knew Chief Preskopowski for a long time, so I never had a problem saying Preskopowski, but I just wanted John to make sure I got it right. Katowitz?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine? No, that's important.
That's good.
I'll tell you how often McGiverin is, which I think is a lot easier pronunciation, is butchered, but if I have, I apologize. Chief, welcome. Would you like to speak on the contract or have any remarks?
I just think it's a very good faith contract. I think we tried to be very reasonable with it. We took some things out that could potentially cost the city a lot of money that really we didn't need to have there in a couple different things, and I think with that being done, it makes it very fair to both myself and the city.
Okay.
And on the military leave, the addition there, I just wanted to stop for a second and say thank you for serving. Much appreciated. Is there any other questions? Lisa, I want to say personally thank you for hopping online with us. I hope you didn't do it for the mayor and that you did it for the city council.
Of course you did.
But much
How
appreciated.
about for both?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
We're going to report this back to the city council. Do you suggest a motion to adopt the language, or just a motion that we reviewed it, and accordingly with what's in the budget upcoming, we can certainly discuss that with the mayor. Does that make sense? I'm not
I think
sure.
it does.
Receive it, yeah.
Mr. Counselor, we ran into a situation with the deputy chief contract last time, and what we did is we came to you in the June meeting, and the money was in the contract, and what you had done is, I think it was Counselor Leahy at the time made a suggestion that you take it as putting the contract in compliance, as long as the funding was in the contract, in the budget from the chief, because we were there before the end of the budget cycle. I forget what the exact language was, but we had the same situation as the deputy chief contract.
Okay.
Point well taken. I remember that. So we'll report out to the full city council that we have done our due diligence with the contract. The appropriations in compliance with the end of the fiscal year will be in compliance with the next fiscal year budget, if so approved by the council. Does everybody understand that?
Yep.
So I'm just making it up.
You did a good job.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any Attorney Bissonnette, you okay?
He's fine.
All right. When I see the face come on, I just don't know if you want to speak or you just want to say goodnight to everybody.
We got Kevin on still, the third member. Is Kevin on? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Okay, on that motion, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved.
There he is. All right.
Thank you, everybody. 3-0. We report that out. And thank you again for joining us. And it's a crazy time of year. We're finishing a fiscal year as we're doing our budget hearings. And in about 3 weeks, we can all start breathing normal for July.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion made, second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Good night.
Good night. Night, everybody. Thanks.
Have a good
Thank you.
night. Take
Have a good
care.
night.
You too.